Well, it's time now to look at some of the day's business news. And for that, I'm joined in studio by Yuka Royer. Yuka, you're starting with the French economy this morning. It grew strongly last year, according to official data.
Well, the numbers came in earlier this morning and they were surprisingly good. And now, the National Statistics Agency INSEE estimates that France's GDP grew 7% in 2021, rebounding strongly from a pandemic-led recession of minus 8% the previous year. Now, this is the largest jump seen in over half a century and far above the government's own estimate earlier used as a basis for this year's budget, which was at 6.25%. A rise in domestic consumption towards the end of the year was a leading driver. Here's Economy Minister Bruno Le Maire speaking earlier this morning.
It erases the economic crisis, and it also shows the mobilization of all the employees, factory workers, bosses of small companies, independent shops, all these French workers who rolled up their sleeves to get us to this figure, 7%. It's spectacular. And what's behind it is jobs, factories and businesses. This also proves that the government's economic policy is effective.
Well, the news comes a day after the US Commerce Department released its latest report showing that the world's largest economy grew 5.7% last year at the fastest pace since 1984. But amid rising inflation and the ongoing Omicron wave of COVID infections, the global economy is expected to slow this year. Earlier this week, the International Monetary Fund sharply cut its growth forecast for 2022 to 4.4%, down half a percentage point from its earlier prediction.
Meanwhile, Apple posted another record profit for the last quarter of last year.
Well, the company's latest earnings report came out yesterday for the period of October to December last year, and they beat expectations pretty much across the board. It's the most important quarter for the company, which includes Black Friday, Cyber Monday and Christmas. Total net sales rose to almost $124 billion, an all-time quarterly record, and an 11% increase from the same period in 2020. Net profit was $34 billion, up 20%. Sales grew in all categories except the iPad, with the new iPhone 13 going strong, especially in China. The smartphones brought nearly $72 billion in sales. Wearables, smart home products and 5G devices also grew double digits, while services like the iCloud grew 24%.
It's a surprising performance, isn't it, amid the global crunch that we're seeing in terms of supply chain delays and problems.
That's right,
there.
It does sound surprising. Well, Apple says that it's mainly thanks to its new iPhone 13 family, which set records in both developed and emerging markets thanks to record numbers of people switching to 5G. Now, Apple boss Tim Cook said on CNBC last night that the chip shortage remains a big challenge, but the impact has been greater for so-called legacy nodes that are used in older manufacturing methods. They affect a wide range of electronic devices and cars, and in Apple's case, iPads, but the other so-called leading-edge semiconductors that iPhones rely on are less severely impacted by the supply crunch.
And Yuka, Apple is also looking to extend payment services on iPhones.
Well, this according to a report by Bloomberg. The company is developing a new service that will effectively turn the iPhone into a payment terminal. The feature would allow small businesses to accept credit card payments via contactless technology directly onto their phones without having to connect to any extra hardware. It will likely use the same kind of technology already used for Apple Pay. According to the report, the company has been working on this new feature since 2020 when it bought a Canadian startup specializing in this technology for $100 million.
And finally from you, Yuka, the Australian government is looking to invest in protecting the Great Barrier Reef.
Well, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison promised a further 1 billion Australian dollars, or about 630 million euros, in addition to an existing $2 billion package to protect the reef that is threatened by global warming. Now, the Prime Minister says that the additional funding will help protect about 64,000 jobs that depend on the tourist attraction. More than half the money will be spent on improving water quality by preventing land erosion and limiting substances flowing from nearby farms. And of course, that's ahead of elections that are coming up soon.
All eyes on that, of course. Yuka Royer, thanks so much for joining us from the Business Desk.